This makes me want to talk about the thing that I didn't talk about yesterday. It's dumb. It's just the writing idea. Okay. You guys remember the time that I rambled the whole goddamn thing about this, the one-armed lady and the power system and the blah-de-blah and all that shit? Well, I thought of something that I think thematically improves the whole setting, and I know that it's at least partially inspired by Warhammer 40k, which makes me hesitant to talk about it because it's easy to make fun of, but I think conceptually it's pretty cool. We're just gonna get it out of the way, okay? So, the idea beforehand was basically humanity randomly gets superpowers and all, like, political superstructures break down because politics only really functions if everyone is equally mortal. If people are capable of surviving a bullet, it's really difficult to police them, which means that functionally the only sustainable system becomes like warlords. If you have systems that are controlled by mortals through laws, all it would take is one person strong enough to not be killed or arrested, and they could supersede it. So humanity randomly gets superpowers, nobody understands why, and everything just goes to shit immediately. And the protagonists are superpowered people who are trying their best to pick up the rubble of the world and rebuild it in the image of a socialist society. The protagonist to begin with, at the very least. And she tries to assemble a ragtag band of people who can try to rebuild things, and the problem she keeps running into is that she can't really find a way to maintain the system that she wants to build without relying on the same authoritarianism she's replacing. She feels she has to keep placing good warlords, because at first, you know, imagine there's a warlord controlling, say, the state of Pennsylvania. You kill that warlord, you take down their entire substructure, you give power to the people who actually live there and set up a democratic superstructure. What happens the moment you leave? Chat, what happens the nanosecond you and all your superpowered buddies leave? New warlord. And immediately, somebody else fills the power vacuum. Because you can arm a democratic society of mortals as much as you want. If somebody comes in who can't be killed with bullets, that's it. It's only a matter of time before they kill everyone from the top down and establish a new power system. So what you find is that you have to keep putting, like, good warlords in place. And the protagonists hate this because they feel like all they're doing is putting a nice coat of paint on a bad system, but it's impossible for them to do anything else because time and time again, whenever they don't do this, they leave their, populations of people to be slaughtered by the next person who comes in to make a statement. So they keep having this recurring problem over and over. But our protagonists are very, very strong. And eventually, through some kind of pseudo-democratic superstructure, they're able to more or less take control of part of the planet, right? Now, at this point in the story beforehand, I thought that the superseding villain, or the broader antagonistic element comes into play, which is that the powers were given essentially by a transdimensional race of godlike beings that can't reproduce, but instead seed living things with the genetic potential to become like them. They recruit from those worlds, and then they kill everyone who isn't worthy of it. So essentially, you sprinkle superpower dust on a whole planet, 5 or 6 people from that planet end up strong enough to be worthy to stand amongst the gods, the rest of the planet is wiped from existence. So that was the original idea. But I actually thought, you know, like reflecting on it a little more, to sort of build on those themes, because the original theme was the idea that power alienates, that no matter what you do, power differences between humans always lead to problems. Because you can use your power for good, that's not impossible, but when you use your power for good, you create a system where power needs to be used for the good to continue to exist. Power is the thing that props up the good, not the other way around. And that works, I think. The problem that I had with it, though, upon reflection, is that the godlike race, the agents responsible for all of this are so culturally different from humanity that it's really difficult to contextualize their understanding of power relative to humanity. And because it's impossible to interact with them in a non-antagonistic manner, there's no way to explore those themes unless you expand the perspective beyond those of the main characters, and I don't know if I want to do that. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if the people who seeded humanity with superpowers were humans themselves? Here's the meta-narrative, okay? And this wouldn't be revealed for a very long time, but just think about it, okay? Humans are a fundamentally violent, expansionist, and tribalistic species, right? I think we can agree on that. Now, that tribalism can be used for good or for bad. Same with the expansionism. It just seems to be something that humans do. That's why we took over the whole planet. So The idea that I had was, what if humanity was contacted by aliens like, fuck, 10, 20,000 years ago? Pre-civilization, right? Standard abduction stuff. Uh, we're potentially sentient creatures, you know, they're interested in us. And humans, after being picked up on one of these, like, explorative scientific shuttlecraft, take over the shuttlecraft. That the humans, who are wily and chaotic and intelligent, wait and rely and exploit on the aliens' trustworthiness, kill them, and seize control of that ship. Humans from 20,000 years ago in control of unfathomably advanced technology. And the idea is they're only able to do this after the ship has traveled far, 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 far away, far, far, far away from Earth. So when humanity gains control of the ship, and by humanity I mean like 100 or 200 or so humans, right? What do they discover? Well, they eventually work out the basics of the tech they're using, but they don't know where Earth is. How could they ever know where Earth is? It's not like Earth is labeled Earth on the star maps. The star maps contain trillions of planets. Like, how would they ever know where Earth is? They would never know. There would be no way to know. So they don't have any way of knowing where they came from. What they do have is advanced technology. So what humans do with that ship is they start colonizing across the Milky Way. And as the years pass, they start wiping out other alien species. That humans are more expansionist, more violent than any of our neighbors are in the cosmos. And that by modern times, by today, 2021 AD, most of the galaxy is at war with itself. There are no aliens. There are only humans. Galactic empires of humans that all herald from different homeworlds that are now competing with each other and fighting over territory. All the aliens are gone. Humans were the ones who seeded Earth, and they don't even know what Earth is. They didn't even know that Earth was the planet from which they originated. The area that Earth is in is some backwater, distant, far-off section of the Milky Way that they're nowhere near. So eventually, one of the galactic empires of humans, one of the warlords, who are themselves seeded with the same superpowers that they were about to seed onto Earth, they come to Earth realizing there's another undiscovered planet of humans here and think, we can recruit. And they send down the psychokinetic materials that end up seeding the planet with superpowers. So when they make contact, the aliens are us, and they're just recruiting for war slaves to send off in the battle that they've been waging for the past 20,000 years. We don't see it because the Milky Way is big enough that the light years from yay off in the galaxy, the light literally hasn't reached us. There's a whole goddamn war across the cosmos that we literally cannot see because the light hasn't reached us yet. And that, I think, would be a really cool story. People on Earth realizing that everything that's happened was just part of a process of them being recruited for war slaves. And then the protagonists would do the same thing to those human imperialists that humans did 20,000 years ago to the aliens. They get picked up and they take control of that ship. And that's the beginning of the next series in the cycle. Just as the protagonists found out there was no way to regain control of Earth without putting warlords in place to redo, in the name of good, what previous ones had done in the name of bad, now they have to join the galactic fight, doing the exact same thing their predecessors had done, because there's no other way to protect Earth. If they choose not to participate in the galactic warfare, Earth could be wiped out from high orbit as soon as a fleet arrives. It could happen like that, you know? You have to participate in the battle, because if you don't, humanity could literally be deleted. Earth's humanity, at least, could just be deleted out of existence in no time at all. So how far along the line can you justify that in a utilitarian sense? Or to put it another way, here's a moral question for the rest of you. If the only way to protect Earth's humanity is to recruit half of the population as slaves to build warships, is that an ethical thing to do? Because if you don't do that, it is objectively the case that the planet is going to be destroyed. You know? It's fight or die, and only the worst imaginable conditions could facilitate emergence from that, you know? But that's the gist of it, basically. Does that make sense? What's the theme of the Protag's arc, then? Well, I mean, ultimately, the idea would be that the only reason any of this is a problem is because anyone has any more power than anyone else. There's really only two logical conclusions to the story, right? Either all of humanity has to die, or the superpowers have to die. there can't be a way for people with superhuman abilities to coexist among mortal humans, because it will always turn out the same way. As soon as a person can survive a bullet, they survive the law, they're the people who make the law. So you have to supersede that system. You have to kill everyone capable of being more strong by default than others, which would not be an easy thing to do, because the warlords of the galactic human empires would be unimaginably strong, you know? Like, how do you kill them? Well, be the point. Yes, very Syndrome. And by the way, if you actually think about the plot of The Incredibles, Syndrome was kind of right. The argument laid out by the first Incredibles movie was literally, some people are born blessed and the rest of the world should make accommodations to make sure they can live that life. The point of the movie was superheroes are naturally better than non-superhero people, and the rest of the world paying damages or repairing buildings that they've destroyed is justified as long as you allow the supermen to stride the planet without, you know, without consideration. The whole moral quandary at the beginning of the film is that we have a superhuman who feels cucked because he has to live the life of a regular person. The literal point is, he's too good for this. It's not, this job is bad for everyone who works here. It's, for Hank in particular, he shouldn't work here because he's a greater type of human who should be, you know, living his... It's Robert? Oh, Bob. Sorry. Why did I think Hank there? You know what I mean? That seems like a limited calculus. The stronger argument we should be tolerant superior damage, superhero benefits is greater. Well, that's not what they talk about, Soaked on Left. And, wait, do you mean Incredibles or what I was rambling about beforehand? What about giving everyone powers a la Evolutions? I don't know if society would be made any more stable if every person was capable of clapping their hands and sending out shockwaves to obliterate nearby buildings. No, fundamentally, human society works because humans are weak. If humans were strong, then we would have to live like the angels. You know, in Neon Genesis Evangelion, the angels, the children of Adam, wander the galaxy as unique cosmetological beings with their own experiences of life, and they do not interact with each other for good reason. Also, there are some abilities that a person could have that would potentially just make them immune to any kind of, like, retrospect. How could you ever police a person capable of mind-controlling others? Imperceptibly. Seriously, like, if a person can mind control others from a distance without any obvious tell, how could you ever fucking control them, you know? There's no fucking way. It's not possible. Yeah, they would be incapable of being controlled. Another mind controller? Well, then it's just whoever fires first, right? With other people whose power detect mind control? Do you want them to just follow that person around forever? You see the problem with this, right? Humans all need to have the same set of physical abilities within a given range so that we're all subject to the same basic limitations, and we can build societal and infrastructural systems around those perceived limitations. You know? The Q in Star Trek managed to do it. I disagree with Star Trek The Next Generation's socio-political prescriptions with the Q race. You understand what I'm talking about, right? Do we understand the point that I'm trying to make? Anyway, the reason I said inspired by 40K is because technically the protagonists on Earth would be experiencing the colonized's perspective during the Great Crusade, right? Is this not the plot of Invincible? It is not the plot of Invincible. It's thematically critical of superheroes, which in that respect is... All right, we've talked long enough. We've done it for long enough. We've had enough fun. We need to stop now. Of course, the allegory here is about systems of power. I hope you understand that. In reality, no human being has superpowers, so the allegory here is about systems that give people innate power over others. Systems like wealth, or systems like political power, insofar as they're determined by people's innate domination over others rather than true democratic, representation. That would be the idea.